Today on Grey's Anatomy, we talk about Torres versus Robbins. Stay tuned. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to AfterBuzz TV. I'm here for AfterBuzz TV. As you can tell, I am all by myself. Yes, this was such a good episode. We're talking about Mama Tried. So much happened in this episode. A lot of emotions here and there. I'm your host, Marisa Serafini. You can follow me on Twitter at SeraphiniTV. Yes, I'm all by myself. But thanks to everyone in live chat. I will be reading your live chats and your comments, whatever you're saying. Are you feeling what I'm feeling in this episode? I find this episode very frustrating in a great way because that's just a testament to great writing. But Mama Tried. Overall, I think it was more so. This was another episode all about, the actual people relationship, the doctor relationships, rather than, granted, we did have a patient story, but that wasn't as nearly as substantial as the Torres versus Robbins case, which we'll definitely get to. But real quickly, let's talk about some other doctors that are happening at that Grace Sloan Memorial Hospital. Jackson versus April. They're actually, again, still civil. And I like at this point, we see them, they're at the bar there, and they're agreeing already. The baby hasn't even been born yet, but they're even at the point where they're talking to each other, and they're agreeing on which holidays that each of these doctors, or both of these, are going to agree on which holidays they get their unborn child, which is really good. And we know from April that she is a very religious person, so the religious holidays mean a lot to her. She wants Easter, of course, and then he wants the Super Bowl. Jackson gets the Super Bowl and Halloween, and then of course they both agree and to rotate on Christmas, which I think this was. There's really no other word for it other than civil. I liked it because it shows that right now they're in a good place, and hopefully by the time this baby is born, maybe they'll be in a better place, if you know what I mean. So I like this. It's a slow progression of both of these characters, and they also did say the line that there are no fighting, no arguing, so hopefully their fighting is kind of done with, and I think Bubby707 in live chat, thank you. I think they will be civil, and I do hope they do get back together when the baby's born. But they were really quick in this episode, and I like where they stand right now. But let's get to some other doctors at the hospital. Edwards, Joe, and Warren. Definitely the levity of this episode. You see them, they're buddy, and they're in the bar. As we saw in the last episode, Edwards had that cold note. She broke up with Diaz, not good. And then, and I loved how Joe was even like, you left a note, but it was like text. It was like a text, but 1980s. And I'm like, really? Not that long ago, people used to break up, not even like by notes. But I also put in my notes, like, when did the 80s and the 90s become old? And I'm like, we're not that old. Or has our generation evolved so much that even Dear John letters and Dear John notes are antiquated, which is really sad. But it was still very cold on Edward's part to still break up with him via a note after a moment where he probably needed her the most. And we see Edwards, she's drunk. She's obviously regretting her decision, because I love the witty fun banter that Edwards and Joe were having, like a 1 in a million butt of his. So we got some girl bonding there as well. But I loved how Edwards wanted to call him drunk dial. It's never really good, but I think Joe was actually the good friend, be like, nope, you can't use that same medicine on Edwards. You have 10 more seconds to talk about Diaz and then we're done. But we see later that Kyle comes back. He's back in the hospital again. And Edwards is like, why didn't you pay me? And we find out that he passed out and he has possible meningitis, which that is a very serious case. Hopefully he gets better. But you can obviously tell that when Edwards saw her man back in the hospital and not doing well, she literally ran to his side. And it shows that Edwards still has strong feelings for him. She still cares, and I hope that this relationship can go on, because it wasn't enough time. It wasn't enough screen time for us audience to see them two together. And I really do think they have chemistry. Edwards and Diaz, they could be a really cool, great couple together. Hopefully that gets better for them. But we see Kyle Diaz kicks her out. It's like, she's not my doctor. I don't want her here. And in fairness, she deserved that. Edwards deserved that. I mean, if you're gonna break up with me via note, I'd kick you out of my hospital room as well. But yeah, poor Kyle. He does not look good. Hopefully he gets better. But I think that takes us to our third story. We do have a patient. We see Jenny comes back, the poor Jenny girl we saw a few episodes ago. Her and her mother come back to the hospital because Jenny was washing dishes and slipped and fell, and by this time she's actually a lot more pregnant than she was last time, and so she's not doing good. Apparently the fall was not completely severe, but serious enough that they have to go into surgery. And of course, Arizona's busy, because don't worry, you guys, I'll get to Cali versus Arizona. But Arizona wasn't on this case, and they had the doctor who was on call, who was not the greatest guy. I mean, we like Arizona better as Jenny's doctor than this on-call dude. But Penny has to, I'm sorry, not Penny, Jenny, all these names, they all sound alike. Jenny has to go into surgery because amniotic fluid is leaking. Not good. But the baby is too soon to have the baby. She's only 24 weeks along. The baby would not survive outside the womb. And but it's desperate times, and the call in OB. It's like, hey, we gotta perform an emergency C-section. And of course, Karev and April are not for it, and neither am I, because even they're like, you know what, if Arizona was here, she wouldn't. She'd find another way. And this was the case that definitely played a bigger role for Arizona during all this. But we actually find out that Arizona, after the case, Arizona saves the day more so. She comes in and be like, yo, we're good. We don't need you. I'm going to keep this baby inside of her. And, all these medical terms, pack her with, platelets or some things. I'm not a doctor, you guys. But pretty much they chalked it up in layman's terms, like, we're going to keep the bun in the oven for a little bit longer and let her cook. It's like, yep, that's the easy way to understand it. I really like this because Arizona, after everything she went through in this episode, we'll get to it, but that was quite possibly the best win for Arizona, and definitely one of the better things that could have happened to her character, and just really validate everything that she was going through in this episode. He was OB, not a prenatal surgeon, as that fill-in doctor. Yes, he was an OB, but he was surrounded by 3 other prenatal surgeons or natal surgeons who didn't think so, but unfortunately they don't have the call. But I think there was that one line where that OB was like, I'm going to get the baby out and then you guys do what you do. It's like, no, it shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't think of it in that terms, like, I'm going to do my part and then you guys do yours. That it sounded, I don't know, too confident or maybe too naive on his part. But sure enough, Arizona saves the day. And I liked this moment with Jenny and her mom got more screen time for their characters, because the first episode the audience kind of didn't like the mother, but she did get a redeemable moment at the end of the first time she was here. And then in the second time, it's like they're just back, and shows that those two are like really good patients that we kind of want to see them through to the end. More so, and we see her pregnancy going along and kind of want her to have a healthy baby. And we find out that she's having a little girl, which I thought this was very sweet. And because Arizona was like, do you want to see your granddaughter? And I was like, definitely a reason why Arizona does what she does. Saving children, saving mothers from losing their children, which basically takes us to the main story of this episode. There's a lot, you guys. So I'm sorry, and I'm reading the live chat. Mary J. Grievous, you say, I really don't think the grandma would have been able to see the baby. Pulling the baby out would expose her to possible bacteria and rapid cooling, causing premature fetal distress. I agree with that topic too, because or that comment. The same thought went through my head. I thought it would be way too, I don't know how that baby would be breathing outside of the womb for that long amount of time. But I think it was more for the dramatic effect of actually knowing that there is a live child in there and we're going to save it. But it got to the point where they almost cut the umbilical cord, but they didn't. So I agree, that's a very good comment. But the baby's good. The baby's good, guys. But Cali versus Arizona. That's basically, so much drama. And I think that's what Grey's Anatomy does so well. So much drama. So we have, even at the beginning of this episode, like, mudslinging is already kind of going down. We see Cali and Arizona with their lawyers both going back and forth on the phones, trying to even make some agreement of what they, what they can do with Sophia, have Sophia here for, like, vacations, summer vacations, whatnot. The whole back and forth, trying to make an agreement from New York to Seattle. Obviously, that's not happening, and therefore, I'll see you in court. And it becomes a legal case, you guys. It becomes Taurus versus Robbins. Kind of like I shouldn't say mini civil war, but a family case, which is always, hard to watch, especially for those who have gone through it. I fortunately have not gone through that, so I personally don't know what that's like, but I can imagine it's, it's anything good, more so. I'm sure it's a hard time. But so for Taurus, we had basically 3 different people for each of these women. We had 3 people on Cali's side, 3 people for Arizona's side. And we saw it last week's episode, whose side are you on? Because there was the whole episode with them just trying to, like, recruit people to be on their sides. And then we kind of saw it in the payout for this episode. So we'll start with Cali first. So for Cali, the first on stand for her was Owen Hunt, and he's getting interrogated and questioned, pretty much interrogated. It's like they're at a police station, but they're not. Pretty much he's on the stand, and he says that, Cali's always up for a challenge, and she's a very empathetic person. The fact that she had a quick decision to go to New York, it was, all of a sudden, but she's the kind of person who just goes in with into a challenge and just is very welcome to surprises. So Owen stuck up for her. And then second for Callie was Penny, of course, because Penny is not really the reason, but kind of like the catalyst of this whole New York move, more so because of her Permager grant. But when Penny's on the stand, she gets questioned and saying, like, how well do you know Sophia? And how well do you know Callie? More so, but, like, how well do you know Sophia? Because you're essentially going to be a parental figure to Sophia. This is going to affect you more so. And, like, what do you know Sophia's favorite things? Like, favorite colors, favorite toys, favorite cereal. I did like this moment from Penny's, even though she's like, I know X, Y, and Z of Sophia. I play with her practically every single day. But there are some things that she didn't know, like what clothes she was wearing immediately that day. And I feel like, some parents, they remember, if something happens to their child one day, they're trying their hardest to remember what clothes they were wearing, But it's like some parents remember and some don't, especially, and this kind of something you don't really think of on a daily basis, like what clothes were my kids wearing last, So, I mean, that's a hard question to answer. And then we also had the question where she won, if she knew what grade Sophia was in. And she thought it was second grade, but it was actually the first grade. So it also just questions, yes, Penny knows some easy details of Sophia, but doesn't really know her all that more intimately of Sophia. So she was kind of like hit or miss with this case as well. And then Meredith gets called up on the stand for Callie. And yeah, Meredith also did say the line too, it was getting hard to watch. And honestly, it was, you guys. This audience, the audience watching this whole episode, it was actually pretty hard because there was some mudslinging here and there. And it's just hard when there's two characters you just love to watch every single week go at each other. But it makes for good drama, right? Okay, but Meredith, she's called up onto the stand and pretty much established the fact that her and Callie, they're single mothers. They help each other a lot. They're always, babysitting each other's kid here and there, helping drop them off at school, X, Y, and Z. But I loved how, Gamble, who was the lawyer for Arizona, she said, but like this village that you established between this motherhood system you guys have established is here in Seattle. And granted, it's great that Sophia has friends, family, and an established environment, but Sophia's going to be leaving that. She's not going to have that support system to constantly have someone watch over her, make sure they go to school on time, X, Y, and Z, and she's going to be leaving that if she goes to New York. So therefore, Meredith, granted, Meredith has played a part in Sophia's life as well, and Callie's, but yeah, you're also going to be saying goodbye to a good, strong foundation that you have there. So when Meredith said about like what it takes a village, it does take a village to raise a child. It takes multiple people, it's hard to do it alone. And I think that's the great thing about Grey's Anatomy, that everyone is always there for each other. Despite, they fight a lot, whatnot, but in the end, they're always there for each other. And, but if Sophia and Callie and Penny leave, they're no longer gonna be there. So, all right, so let's get to Arizona. And, Dianora Morales in live chat says, I do think her Meredith's testimony was a big part as to why the verdict. I agree. I mean, if you're going to leave a good, solid foundation, it plays a big role. But let's get to Arizona. The first person was DeLuca, which I was actually kind of surprised. But yeah, DeLuca's been on Arizona's, case for a while. So DeLuca says, he lives with Arizona, but every time he's seen Arizona with Sophia, that they're always happy. Sophia's always happy. Like it's a happy family environment. And I think that's definitely a positive thing for Arizona. It's like if the person that you're going to leave a child with, make sure it's a happy and safe environment. And then DeLuca established that message with Arizona. And then the second one was Bailey, which Bailey was so on point. And I was like, yes, Bailey, just keep going. She was so on point with everything she said. When she got called to the stand, but forgive me, I forget the exact name of the lawyer for Callie's, but when she was being questioned by Callie's lawyer, she brings up the good topic of emergencies, because they are doctors and whatnot. They're always called away at they have an unpredictable work schedule, and this is why I didn't like Callie's lawyer, because they played dirty. Callie and the lawyer, they played dirty, and they had to use tangible evidence, which every time you bring in evidence, it kind of just, in a way it validates points, but I think it's also the way they go about them. So the first part, document 2C, it shows how many emergency procedures that have been done in the past 6 months between Callie versus Arizona. So Callie had 27, being an orthopedic surgeon, and Robbins had 92, because Arizona is a natal surgeon and whatnot, that pregnancy and childbirth is always unpredictable. Sometimes that's something you plan for 9 months, but then the day that happens, you never know what time of day that is, or when exactly what day that is. So yeah, it is it goes without saying, it's a very unpredictable work schedule. And I loved how the lawyer was like, that seems very grueling, and Miranda Bailey was like, I don't say that was grueling. I say that's successful. That's very successful. 92 patients. That's very successful. And then that lawyer just kept going at it. It was like, and then Miranda, I loved how she just kept calling her out. It was like, would you ask that if she were a man? Oh, so good. It was just so on point. Bailey was just so good. Mary Gravis in the live chat's like, I loved Bailey, a ray of sunshine in the cloudy episode. I agree. Bailey the feminist, and I'm definitely a feminist, you guys. I'm all about women power and women working hard as well in the industry, or any profession more so, but also being successful. And then that's also what Miranda was saying. It's like she's a successful doctor. Like, just because she works a lot doesn't mean that she's unpredictable and she can't be a great mother either. But she is a very well-established doctor. So, but even Gamble was like, don't worry, they're turning your strength into weakness. And again, I think that's why I think it was kind of dirty, because that was such a twisted way of saying that your busy work schedule, even though you're working hard, is a hindrance to watching Sophia. And granted, Arizona and Callie have had this working relationship of, if things happen, they text each other at last minute to swap nights and whatnot to watch over Sophia, and I think that takes us to Weber. So Weber is third witness for Arizona, and it's just very unfortunate how we see, because we saw earlier in this season that Weber and Arizona have had their trivia nights together, their bonding times, each other's wing man more so. But it was just a shame that such a fun little bonding moment between them was definitely used against them in this episode, and used against Arizona. All those nights of drinking, because we find out that Weber's not the drinker, that Arizona was probably drinking all those nights, and they won trivia 25 times within the last 6 months. So that's at least so they calculated document 3C now, so more more documents and more evidence into this. Again, a little dirty. The fact that they're even counting something as trivial as the trivia nights. But we find out that there was 25 nights where both of them have won in trivia, not including the nights that they haven't lost. That they have lost. And so there's 25 of those, plus the 92 unexpected, unplanned procedures. Add that up, and that was like total around to like 150. 150, ideally. They did the math, not me. But they said that's about like 150 days where Arizona couldn't be with Sophia, that Sophia had to be with someone else other than her mother, who was, Arizona. And they said in a 6-month period, there's only like 180 days. So that's a good amount. 150 out of 180 days where Arizona couldn't be with Sophia. So those numbers, those evidential numbers, was not looking good for Arizona's favor. But again, I think this was like slightly dirty. I really can't think of another word for it, but the fact that they had to go some cases you do have to go pick at every minute detail that might help you win a case. But it was just really unfortunate. And then so after that, we see a brief moment of Callie and Arizona they're sitting on the bench there, and Callie was like, you know what, all that, she talks to Arizona, and she's like, you know what, everything that's happening that doesn't say, it's like, but pretty much in to break it down, that she says that you're still a great mom. No matter what happens, and that doesn't change that. No matter what the outcome is of this case, it doesn't change that. Oh, like I should also talk about, but even before that, I'm going to rewind a little bit. So Callie has her moment on the stand, and she talks about being pregnant with Sophia. The day Sophia was born, she was in the car accident. And my mind just went back to the musical episode. Great voice, by the way. Oh my goodness. Sarah Ramirez has a beautiful voice. But yeah, it went back to the moment where Torres was pretty much like, if I died, she died. And I stayed alive for my daughter's sake. And being a mother is the reason why I'm still alive today. And I'm like, yeah, it's like, I get that you do have an actual biological connection to Sophia. It's like, no one's denying that. No one's ever taken that away from her. And the fact that, like, yeah, she did almost die, but she lived for her daughter. And I was like, yep, I will give you that, Callie. There's no argument there. And then Arizona. Yes, Mary Grievous, lots of blows to Arizona, and the look on her face made me sad. I think it made us all sad. But it was, it was really, there was a lot of like blows to Arizona, and that's again why I think Callie's side and her lawyer played dirty. But it got to the point where it was just downright mean, because when they were on that bench, Arizona was like, I would have never done any of those personal jabs to you, Callie. You know me. And I think Callie knew that too. Like, Callie knew that they were playing dirty. But when it gets to Robbins in Arizona, and Arizona getting onto that stand, and this was so good. I was like, I just wanted to stand up and applause for Arizona because she was great. The whole moment where the lawyer was like, you don't share the same last name, and Arizona like nipped that in the bud. She was like, just because I don't share the same DNA doesn't make her any less of a mother than I have been to this child, and you're literally offending every adopted person, or like anyone who's has an adopted child. I was like, yes, Arizona, that's so good, because I know what that's like. I am adopted, like I know what that's like. to have an unconditional love for kids. And that's what Arizona has, this unconditional love for Sophia, because she did legally adopt Sophia, and Arizona said the lines like, I chose motherhood. Yes, I have, an unpredictable schedule, but she chose motherhood. This wasn't a situation that fell into her lap. It wasn't a last minute thing. This was something that Arizona wanted, and she still wants. She wanted to be a mother. Like, no one forced her to be. This was on her own accord. And I really love this. I was like, and I think this was like kind of a turning point for me. I was like, you know what? I think it's going to go to Arizona. And because watching the whole Callie case and the whole, Callie's lawyer bringing out all this evidence to maybe think the audience is like, oh, because they have more tangible evidence that it might go to Callie. No, I think it was, to throw us off. I was slowly thinking it was going to go to Arizona. But, yeah, I loved it. And we finally get the verdict. And even before the verdict, because, like, I hate to do this also, because, like, the episode, I think this was just great editing, that, they had that dramatic moment, like, the sole physical custody for Sophia is going to go to, and then they fade out, and they cut to a completely different scene. I'm like, no, don't do this to us, Grace. Don't do this to us. And they did. But before that, so before we even find out that I liked how there was the two different moments of dropping off Sophia throughout the whole episode. First, we see Callie dropping Sophia off at Meredith's house, and Callie shares the sweet moment with Sophia, hugging her really tight and a little too long and a little too tight. But Sophia seemed kind of sad, and then we see later on that Arizona drops her off. And Sophia wanted to stay with Arizona more so. She was fighting it back, and I think this was also like another indication that I kind of thought it was going to go to Arizona. That Sophia really wanted to be with Arizona more so, and it might be better if Arizona had her. So yes, we do find out that Arizona gets sole custody. Let me know what you guys think. Were you surprised with Arizona getting sole custody? Did you think it was going to go down this way? Did you think Allie was going to find out that she was going to get Sophia? Overall, I really, really enjoyed this episode. Very, very... it was very emotionally intense. And I'm glad it didn't get, like, too in-your-face kind of dramatic, like... more mudslinging, or the fact that it kind of got wrapped up in this episode, that they didn't like drag it out to the finale or something. That we had this episode like basically solely dedicated to the custody. So I think it was a very strong episode. I'm glad it went to Arizona, but I do feel bad for Callie, because you see that moment where she breaks down at Meredith's house, like, how did this happen? How did I lose my child to Arizona? But in the end, Arizona won. So I think that will take us, or me, to predictions then.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
All right, because Arizona won custody, it makes me think that Callie still won't go to New York. This decision will force her to realize, does she really want to be in New York? Does she really love Penny? Even though we did see that moment when her and Meredith are getting drunk. I should talk about that a little bit. Her and Meredith are, bonding over... I love how Meredith's always tequila. That just takes me back to season 1 when she got drunk on tequila. So she's a tequila girl, and Callie wanted more wine. But during that, Callie was like, I tried to not love Penny, but I did. And Mama tried. Hence the title of this episode, Mama tried. So she didn't want to love Penny, but it happened. And I think it was interesting when Meredith was also on the stand. She's like, Penny is a very good person, which wow, Meredith, you came a long way with Penny after, like, everything that happened with your husband, hating her, and then fighting against her in your OR, and now coming to the point where you're now sticking up for Callie and Penny. It's like, wow, that was a whole evolution, whole character arc in a way for Penny, Meredith and Penny, those two. Very surprising. I would not have pictured that at all from the introduction of Penny, but because Arizona now has sole custody, I still think Callie won't go through the New York moving. I think Penny's gonna leave, or Penny might break up with Callie and say, like, I can't do this. Your family is split. I can't be the reason why your family's not together anymore. And I think Penny might leave on her note in that way. It's not about her, or like not all about her, but like I think Penny is good enough to realize that maybe she doesn't want to be the person to cause problems. So she might just gracefully back out. But yeah, I think it was a really strong episode. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you everyone for listening. Unfortunately, my co-hosts aren't here tonight, but overall this was a great episode and I was very excited to talk about it with you. Thank you everyone in the live chat. I think thanks for joining me in this episode. And you can follow me on Twitter at Serafini TV. You can follow all of us here on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all those fun places at AfterBuzz TV. Rate, comment, subscribe, download. Let me know what you thought about this episode. This was such a good episode, and I want to talk to you guys more about it, because even though the episode's gone, we're going to keep talking about it. I'm very excited. We only have a few more episodes left of the season finale. That's coming up pretty soon. This was very, this is a great episode. So thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.